What's up, guys? Dr. Mitch here with Alpha Sports. Today, this one's for all you throwers out there. We're going to talk about how to throw hard effectively using the entire body. Like I said, we're talking to all the throwers out there. So we're talking football, baseball, softball, javelin, any sort of throwing sport out there. This is for you. We're talking about how to use the entire body to create velocity and strength through that throwing motion. So a lot of people we see have injuries in the shoulder because they think that's where all the velocity and strength comes from. They gotta think they have a big arm, when in reality, it comes from the entire body, not just the arm, and that's where we see injuries. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is how we need to create a stable and strong base to use the arm as more of a whip. So we need to talk about how we transfer force from the ground up through the body, through the arm, and out to the fingertips into the ball that we're throwing, and create a whip-like motion instead of trying to create all of our force and velocity coming through the arm. So like I said, it starts from a stable base. This is our trunk. Everything when it comes to throwing in any sport is all core to extremity or core to limb. And so it all starts with the low back or the lumbar spine and the trunk here. Anytime we need to have a stable base, we need to focus on creating stiffness and stability through this area. So whenever we do that, we need to make sure we have appropriate stacking of our rib cage over our pelvis. This is going to keep our low back in a neutral position, not overextending, not flexing, or anything like that. And that will allow us to create intra-abdominal pressure to create a very stable base. Without this stable base, everything out here gets all loosey-goosey, and we actually leak power through the entire system. I mean, think about if you were to shoot a cannon off of a canoe. It doesn't work very well. We need a strong foundation for us to shoot that cannon off of, and that's the concept we're applying here. So what I like to do is just to test out what kind of core stiffness and stability you have. You're gonna stand up nice and tall. You're gonna squeeze the cheeks, and then you're gonna tighten the core by breathing all the way out, holding that there, and then breathing in. This is a very stacked and stable position. A lot of times we have this natural tendency to overarch in the back, and this is actually going to leak power. So let's talk about that. If I'm coming through my throwing motion here, and I go to wind up, and I'm all the way into my follow through, and I have this natural overarching position, that's going to, one, cause a lot of stress in my low back, but then two, I'm leaking all of this power out of my body. I no longer have a stiff and stable foundation, and I'm relying on my arm to create velocity, and I'm now slinging the arm versus letting it become a whip. What we want is to start from stable base. Again, a lot of our power comes from our hips and our trunk when we throw, and then it comes out. We need to use our big muscles to create power. Your glutes and your core are a lot stronger than your arm, no matter how big your biceps are. Sorry about it. So, like I said, when we're coming to pitch, a lot of rotation needs to come through the hips. We need to be able to maintain that rib cage over pelvis instead of overarching, and then let all of that power come from the ground through the hips, up through the core, out the chest, through the shoulder, and then whip-like motion with the arm. So let's talk about how we can apply this for all of you athletes out there. So I think the best way to start is just work on that core bracing. So like I said, we're gonna stand here, nice and tall, feet are underneath the hips. We're gonna squeeze the cheeks, breathe out all the way, tighten the core, and then just take a few breaths here. We should feel nice and stiff, nice and strong through here. Then we can start to advance this into some throwing motion. So I like to start as simple as possible to work on rotation. If you were standing to throw or playing catch with someone, you're gonna stand here again, same bracing, and then we're gonna work on throwing from here. The feet are staying still, but now we're incorporating that rotation with the throwing motion, so you have to use your hips. We're not just standing here using the arm, because remember, it's a full body motion, not just a big arm. So practice throwing here while still creating that stiffness. Then we can advance into more of a wind-up technique. But before that wind-up starts, I want you to stand there with that brace, then go into your wind-up, or from the stretch, however you're throwing, whichever your sport is, start stacked, start nice and stiff, and then go into that throwing motion. Because our goal is, this is just like any other skill, right? You must practice in order to become good at it, and then eventually it just becomes second nature. Right? So practice creating that stiffness, then you can slowly advance it, go more and more and more, and eventually when it comes to quick explosive things like throwing a guy down from the outfield, fielding a grounder, throwing a javelin, throwing a deep pass to the end zone, whatever it is, you don't have to think about that core stiffness anymore because you've already practiced it, your body's already aware of it, and it's just ready to rock. Second nature, you're throwing dimes and launching bombs all day long. All right, so take everything we've talked about today, go out there, apply it, practice it, get really good at it. And if you guys have any other questions or need anything else, you can hit that subscribe button. Check out all of our videos that go over things like muscle flossing, lacrosse ball, how to recover, other performance things. If you need anything else, don't be afraid to reach out to Alpha Sports. We love you guys. Go forth, become an alpha.